What's up, base campers? For this week, I wanted to go over the new Serum update. I think it's 1.3. It's the one released May 30th. Just been diving into it today and really trying to understand what I can do with all the new stuff. So I'm gonna kind of just go through and outline all the new features, just so you guys know what's in here and how you could possibly use it in your own production. So, all right. So the first feature I want to go over is the LFO Point modulation. So I'm sure you guys have seen people do this. There's a few videos going over this stuff already, but I'm going to kind of dive a little more in depth. We're going to do first mapping of X to LFO2 here for this point. We're also going to do by Y to the same bus. And let me just talk a second about what the bus means. So whenever you map any LFO point, it creates a bus, which you can see over here in the matrix, destination LFO bus. So all that means is now you can point other things to modulate that bus, right? Right here you see LFO bus 1 is selected, so we've pointed LFO2 to modulate that. If we wanted to point another thing to modulate another point, it's going to create another bus for us, right? We can select bus 1 and then it'll do the same movement as the one up here. But if we wanted to do something different, modulated by LFO3, for example, we'd have to create a new bus and point that at LFO3. And then now we have two different entries in our matrix and two different things going on. So if we play this, let's map this to something first. So we'll do... So you can see it's moving and getting all crazy. So, and I'll show you a quick way that I use it most often since I discovered this. So if we do a filter on, you're making like a pluck sound. Sometimes like you're coming on a buildup and you kind of like increase this. But I've always wanted to be able to like move this up with the parameters. So what we can do here is actually map this to a macro. We map this here, we go by Y. And one annoying thing is we can't mess with the range on this view as far as I know. So you have to go over here. And since we have LFO bus 1, to mess with that range, we mess with this slider. So if we put it there, you can see that the range decreased. And that box shows how far that point will go due to this, right? So we got to map this to something first to be able to see the movement. So let's just map it here. So you can see it moving. And if we wanted it to go higher, we just crank this LFO bus slider up there. And if we want to go even lower, we have to drag it to the floor, right? So now we can, in addition to moving this up, so we'll also map this to the filter cutoff. Just gives it a more dramatic effect. So that's a really cool way to use that. Another thing you can do, which I'll do here, is you can go right here and you'll see this new icon that it looks like a little squiggly line. It says drag export, right? If you click and hold and drag it down here, what that's going to do is it's going to take the last note we played in Serum and it's going to make it an audio file. So if I solo this, now we've essentially just resampled Serum without having to do any audio routing, which is something that I really think is powerful about this update. And it's kind of hidden over here, so you wouldn't know it was there. So it's just hover your mouse over this top left corner and just drag down to an audio track if you're in Ableton. All right. And then the third new feature, if you open any effect, there's also a way to level these effects, right? So I talk a lot about gain staging on this podcast. So this is really powerful if you have a lot of stuff going on. Let's say you have this crazy heavy distortion or something. So let's say that distortion, it's a bit too over the top, right? And we want to turn the level down. we can just click here on mix and it'll switch to level, and then that's like another trim. It's basically a volume knob available to us. So now we can gain stage in the effects rack, which is super powerful. Before, you'd have to kind of be careful about your level coming out, adjust the master, maybe do something on the post-processing bus and whatever DAW you're in. But now you can just do that. Okay, and then the next thing is init all LFOs. So before, if you wanted to start a new patch, or just maybe you like the wavetable, but you had a bunch of things mapped to these, you kind of have to go in here and demap them or whatever. But now you can just go here, init LFOs and LFO mods, and everything changes except the wavetable. And let me just pick a different wavetable so you guys can see why this is powerful. So we have that mapped there. If we just go here, init LFOs and mods, the wavetable remains. So that's cool if you're like dragging stuff in and resampling things and you don't want to have to do that again. You can just click that and wipe all this stuff and keep the wavetables. The last thing, which is kind of cool, is the velocity sensitivity of these keys down here. So depending on where you click on them, you'll see over here that the velocity changes. So if you touch it near the bottom, it's going to be high velocity. If you touch it near the top, it's going to be low velocity, which is cool because you can actually in Serum map this velocity to any parameter and then have the touch of the key affect what the sound is like. So this is a way to test that out without having to have an actual MIDI keyboard to poke around in. Maybe you're in an airport or something. So that's really powerful. That's pretty much it for the updates in terms of major features added. So I hope you guys got something out of this tutorial and episode, and have fun in Serum. Make some crazy shit. Send me what you make. Peace.